Hey there, welcome to the Going Scared podcast. I'm your host, Noonday Collection founder, Jessica Honegger. Join me as I connect you with change makers from all over the world who are ready to help take you by the hand and move you through your fears towards a life of impact. Are you ready to get off the couch and choose courage instead? Then let's dive in. Hey everyone, it's Jessica Honegger, founder and co-CEO of Noonday Collection. Thank you so much for joining me today on my first ever podcast, Going Scared. I'm all about going scared, and I'm going scared a little bit today because I've never done this before. So thank you so much for tuning in. When I was a little kid, I grew up on Oprah, and I always dreamed of getting to be an Oprah who gets to interview people and dive deep into their lives. And so thanks for letting my Oprah dreams come true. There is little more that I take pleasure in than taking someone by the hand when they're afraid and walking them through that fear to become more fearless and more courageous. And that is what this podcast is all about. I promise you, every single episode, you are going to leave with a little bit more courage and with a little bit more of a desire to get out of your comfort zone. And you are going to want to go make the impact on the world that you were created to make, that you were meant to make. So for our very first episode, who is someone who I have seen is an absolute world changer is my very first artisan partner. Her name is Jalia Matovu. Jalia began her business in Uganda 7 years ago, and it has now exploded. She oversees a thriving workshop, and I joke with her that if Inc. magazine had named the best place to work in Uganda, they would definitely name her business as the best place to work. We cover so much today, and I'm looking forward to you learning more about her story, my story, and our shared story together. As you listen, I hope that you'll be inspired to get out of your comfort zone and take a chance on something bigger than yourself. No matter what that dream is that you're harboring, it's time to take it off the hypothetical shelf and give it a go. Let's dive in. I am so excited for my first guest, Jalia Matovu. When I launched this podcast, Going Scared, that's how I really define courage. Courage is just simply going scared. And what more courageous person to have on the show than Jalia Matovu? Jalia, you run a thriving artisan business in Uganda, East Africa. Tell us a little bit about your business. How many workers do you have? What's your role in the company?
So right now I have a big business employing about 119 people in the workshop. I have over 350 bead rollers who roll from home. They make beads from home. And I'm very excited about how fast and how efficient our business is getting, and overall for the commitment that we have in our partnership with Noonday. I'm very excited to see how many lives have been transformed, including my life. So it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to share with my friends about what God is doing in my life.
So I think a lot of people hear about success and they think that the path to success is straight, that you have a dream and then you just go after it and then ta-da, you have this amazing business. So why don't you tell us about your journey to success? What was your life like 8 years ago?
Oh, wow. So 2010, my life was really now that I reflect on it, it was a very desperate life. We were going through a very hard time. We had just finished college, and my husband had no job, and I had no job either. We had no permanent home. We were really moving from one home to another, house sitting for missionaries who needed to go back home. We had no source of income. We had 2 children. It was a very hard time. I remember many times I used to pray and ask God for a breakthrough, financial breakthrough. We made a lot of artworks also during that time. We made some paintings, we made some crafts, cards. We made a few things, but there was no market, and we were very desperate. Yeah, so then one day, I get a phone call from this missionary who had bought some artwork from us, and she said, I have a friend in America who is very interested in your artwork, and mostly jewelry, and she wants to start making orders. I was so excited. I mean, that's the only word I know to use in English.
Just excited.
Yeah, so, but I was like, God has finally come through for us. It was a miracle.
So Jalia's talking about me.
Yeah.
So my life around 8 years ago was in a similar situation where my husband and I had been in the real estate industry, and the housing market just totally crashed. And before you knew it, all of the houses that we had remodeled and were on the market weren't selling, and we were having to practically give them away. And then no one was buying or selling homes. So we literally started to begin to live off of our credit cards. I was in a really desperate time financially, but Joe and I had also made this decision to adopt internationally. So I knew I needed to start a side hustle. And this missionary that you spoke of was a friend of mine. Yeah. And she said, unbeknownst to her, she didn't know about our financial situation, that it was hard. She was just really trying to help you guys. Yeah. So she said, I have these friends. They're so talented. They're not only talented, but they could be just the future leaders of Uganda if they just had someone who would take a chance on them and invest in them. And I was like, you're crazy. I was like, are you kidding me? Start a business right now? Yeah. I'm doing real estate. I'd started some interior design. I had 2 kids we were trying to adopt. But I like to say that courage cornered me. I don't know if I wouldn't have been so cornered would I have had that courage to kind of stand up and start something. But I felt cornered. And so I sold all of these items, and then Donnie connected me to you, and I was like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, so you ordered for things. You ordered for maybe 50 necklaces and some bracelets. So, but we had no actual company. We didn't have a bank account. So we started wondering how we are going to, you remember that time, how we are going to wire the money, how you're going to send the money.
Right. We didn't know how to get money to you.
So we also didn't know how to make paper beads. That's the truth. We had studied art.
So I'd ordered paper beads, but thinking, this is just what they know how to do.
Yeah. So we didn't tell you at that time, but because we had seen an opportunity to work out of poverty, that order was a miracle to us. So we found this lady, and we asked her to train us in how to make paper beads.
How did you find this lady?
We were walking by the slum of Namuwongo, one of the biggest slums in Uganda now, even then. So we found her rolling paper beads, and she was going to visit some friend who was sick in the hospital. I stopped and I asked her, where do we buy paper beads? How do you make the paper beads? So at first she connected us to some lady called Mariam. I wonder if you remember Mariam.
I do, yeah.
So we bought a few things from Mariam, and then we used those beads. We broke the necklaces that she had made, right. And we recycled the beads and used them to make the things that you wanted. But Mariam taught us how to roll the beads and how to varnish and how to do all of that. We learned very quickly.
But of course, me on the other side, waiting for my order, I have no idea that this is going on. Yeah. And I didn't know what I was doing either.
So why I say that we went scared is because this was an opportunity for us. There is no way we were going to say that we are not skilled or we are not able. There is no way. We really needed this. So we had to do everything that it took to learn, to get a bank account, to start a company. I mean, it was challenging for us because we had never worked with Americans before and we had never owned a business before. Everything was going to be new, but courage.
Courage?
I guess so.
Okay, so there came a time for me, I know, when this was a side hustle. Ultimately, it was to help me raise money to get our son Jack home. We adopted from Rwanda. And so the real estate market's crumbling. I'm ordering some accessories from this couple in East Africa that I've never met, set up a Western Union account.
Yeah.
I went to a pawn shop and sold off some gold jewelry that my mom had given me when I was younger in order to pay for my first website.
Yeah.
So I'm over here hustling, is what we like to say in America.
And we are over there hustling too.
And you're hustling too. Neither of us really knowing what we're doing or where it would lead. Mm-hmm. But at some point, you make a commitment. Mm-hmm. You know, at some point, you realize, okay, this isn't a side hustle anymore. This is going to be a business. I'm going to establish this as a business. I know when my moment was. Tell me about your moment when you realized this isn't just a side hustle.
So I grew up in poverty in a time whereby you cannot count on anything, even good life. You would come and go. We were used to life where you have lunch, but you don't have hopes for dinner. So when this started, I was excited and happy about that. But again, I couldn't count on it. I didn't know how long it would go. The time that I really felt that this is going to be something of a long time is when I met you. It was on the 1st of October when you came with Wayne. We picked you up from the airport. I remember that date because it was our wedding anniversary. So we picked you up and then we were driving back home and you said, Jalia, we are sisters. We are in this together. But when you said that we are sisters, something in me really clicked. I'm like, yes, we are sisters. So that is when my moment was. And then I realized that actually this could be something that we can do together. And then you started telling me about your hopes for this business and how we can work together and our partnership. That is when I developed that commitment to the work that we were doing together. But mostly when you say that we are sisters, something in me really, I think it was a good thing.
Yeah. I like to think sometimes that when we don't believe in ourselves, we can borrow belief from someone, you know, and I feel like you borrowed my belief in you.
Yeah. Yes.
And on my side, I had someone who's now my business partner, Travis Wilson, who I was borrowing belief from because I knew at this point, okay, this is going to be more than a side hustle. So it was about 3 weeks before coming to Uganda to actually meet you for the first time. I thought, is this just a fundraiser, a side hustle, or is this a business? And so I began to reach out to different people, asking them for help and questions. And one of those friends was Travis.
Yeah.
And I began meeting with Travis in the early morning, like coffee at 6 a.m. He had a business background, a finance background, but also had lived in Africa doing microfinance loans for small female-owned businesses there. So we really shared so many things in common.
Yeah.
And after meeting him for a few coffees, he said, okay, Jessica, would you be willing to actually make this a business? And I could be your business partner. And I've been saving up money my whole life, and I could support my family for at least a year off of my savings account to see if this is really going to happen. And that was my moment of, okay, it's one thing if I risk my reputation, my gold jewelry, but it's another thing when someone's going to take a big risk on me.
Yeah.
But he believed in me enough to do that.
Yeah.
And what about you when you then began to hire artisans, when you began to hire people in your neighborhood? Did that sort of up the risk for you, where you're like, okay, now other people are believing in me and risking on me?
So your orders started growing. I remember the first order was really about 50 pieces, but there was this month when you ordered 100 of each product, and it was about 500 products in total, but we could not do it on our own. So Latifa was the very first one we started with, and we asked her to go and call other people that we would train them so they can work with us. So Latifa went and brought Kenya and Caleb, and Nakato and Mama Sham and those first, there were about 13 people. We started working with them, but the orders were not consistent. So we would work on the order for like a week or two, and then we find someone. There wasn't any organized system of shipment at that time, but we would find your friend who was coming back, and then
yeah. I had someone ask me sometime, like, how did you figure out international shipping? I was like,
no, at that point,
we probably broke some laws at some point.
And then there was a time when we had, so you know that before all of this, we wanted to be missionaries, and it was time for us to go to Tanzania with Mission to the World for missions. But now we had about 13 people. We had started working with they really believed in us. We were the ones training them, and their jobs and, what it depended on us. So during that time is when we thought that there is no way we can abandon these people and go off for missions somewhere. So we said, let us remain here and do African Style and really get committed to it because of the people who are trusting us with their lives. There's no way we were just going to say goodbye to them and just move on.
Yeah, it's like when people when you kind of go from being the solopreneur to being an entrepreneur that employs other people.
Yeah, it stops being about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, my commitment to designing and to working increased more when I saw how many people that our business is impacting, and of course their families and all of that. I wanted to do more and to grow this to make sure that they're taken care of because they were really hoping in us. You were hoping in us not to fail you because you're starting a big business.
I was completely reliant upon you.
So, and Travis used to say, hey guys, we are starting, it's growing big. We hope that you're ready to grow big with us. We didn't know what that would mean, but we were ready to take the challenge.
Accept the challenge.
Accept the challenge.
So let's think about your transformation over the last 8 years. When I first came to visit you, I remember we would have these late night conversations drinking tea.
Yeah.
And I was asking you about your dreams. And you said, my dream is simply to live and not die. Tell us your journey sort of from insecurity to confident business leader. What's that been like?
It's been a long journey. Like you said, there was this time in my life when that question, what are your dreams? That was really a hard question for me because, to be honest, I didn't really have dreams. I was just surviving for the day. And I really just wanted to survive and just to stay alive because I see how orphans are treated and all the poverty is a big problem, but again with orphans it's worse. So I wanted to just live and keep hustling for my children. Then that time beauty and how I looked wasn't a priority. I had never worn makeup. Like I had never worn lipstick. Even to try it on, it felt like I didn't deserve it. Yeah, I felt maybe I would appreciate it for other people, but for me, I felt like I did not deserve looking good or lipstick. But with time, I've come out of that. My dreams have gotten bigger because now I have a sustainable income. And I've been earning over the last 7 years. My dreams have gotten bigger.
Tell us about your dreams now.
Now I have dreams to diversify and grow my company. I have dreams of building this farm that we purchased. I want to see a chicken business growing, a big one. I want it to be like the biggest yellow egg yolk eggs business in Uganda. So I want to have a marriage retreat center and have cottages and see that we bring couples and inspire them to have good families, to have a good marriage. And I have bigger dreams than just surviving. And I think since I came out of this insecurity, I've seen many people in my workshop coming out too.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Nowadays, all the ladies wear red lipstick. Maybe I should try purple because whatever I wear, they wear it. I remember one time Nema told me it starts from above, in that I'm looking good because my boss is looking good. It kind of has rubbed onto all of us, and we all feel beautiful to wear lipstick and to have nice hairstyles. It's something that we had lost because of poverty and because of hustling so much.
I love that because I love that Noonday Collection is an accessories brand. And we're all about getting a woman together and
looking beautiful. Yeah.
But I like to say that we already are beautiful. Putting on jewelry is just simply recognizing what we already are. The jewelry doesn't make us beautiful. It's just acknowledging our beauty and puts a little bit of step of confidence.
Yeah, but you see, if you're going through that time of insecurity and beaten up by poverty, you can't even put on that necklace because you feel like you don't deserve it. We were making these beautiful things, but we did not feel like we deserve to wear them.
To wear them too.
Yeah.
Not anymore, though.
Yeah.
So, tell us about that, because you came to the United States for the first time in order to speak at our sales conference that we have here in America every year. And you were the most sought after speaker that entire weekend. Tell us about how that transformed your business and helped you to connect with the American customer.
Yeah. So that trip was really important to me because, first of all, at Shine, I saw how the ambassadors are wearing our necklaces. I think everybody was, I don't know if everybody, but most of them were wearing Ugandan pieces at that time. So it really made me recognize that people actually really love these pieces and that they look so beautiful in them. There was a time when I would just think that maybe they are buying these products because they want to support our business, more like a charity, like charity. But then I saw how they love them and how they look beautiful in them. It helped me to realize that it's not really just about charity. They actually really love the product. So that gave me a lot of I don't know, but it stirred me up to want to design more and to produce more. Yeah, but also being in America, it helped me to see what America is about and the expectation of quality and it changed my way of thinking. When I went back home, I tried so much to maintain the quality of our product. As you have seen over the years, we no longer have many damages in the products that come in the warehouse because I know what quality is. Then when you used to say quality, my mind would not understand the same quality that you're talking about.
Right.
So it's really helped me to go trend shopping and seeing all these different shops and knowing what an American person expects in their products, and also to realize what looks beautiful on them.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we've been able to bring ambassadors to visit you.
Yeah.
And you've shown us what the beauty and the empowerment is of your country. And I know it's been life-changing for so many women.
Oh, yeah.
Who've come to visit.
Also for my workers, because I could not bring them over to see the ambassadors, but when you come to us and they get to connect with them, they feel like it's real. It's a real partnership. We are together in this. So I think that's how my workers feel when ambassadors come to visit. They make friendships with them. They see how they wear our jewelry and they feel like what they're doing, their work is beautiful.
And it matters.
And it matters, yes.
Right. So a lot of women here in America are starting up businesses these days, and artisan crafts is all the rage. What would you say to a young entrepreneur? What advice would you have to give to a young entrepreneur who's just starting out with her business, no matter what it might be?
Well, I would say that do not despise a humble beginning. It's important to start, better than not starting. And I would say do not wait for you to have everything that you need to start. Start, and then every other thing will come, because and also, especially if you're looking at handmade, you have to look at the impact that it's causing. Let that be your drive to do what you're doing, because it's making a difference in people's lives. So it's not just a business, it's life changing for many people. So if you look at that, it can give you the what should I put it? It gives you the courage to keep going forward, knowing that you're not living for yourself, you're not doing it just for yourself, but so many people are depending on it.
Right.
So yeah, I would advise that entrepreneur to go for it.
Just
and
go for
scared.
it.
Yes.
Say yes, and then figure out the rest as you go.
As you go.
Go scared.
Yeah. Exactly. So.
Well, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome. Thank you too. Thank you too.
We all need someone that we can borrow belief from. And I know Jalia's borrowed belief from me, and I've borrowed belief from her. That was such a great conversation. We are going to end and wrap it up with one of your stories of going scared. Jolene lives in Indiana. She's the mother of 4 children. She's a former hairdresser, and she's also a Noonday ambassador. And she shared with me recently a harrowing story about an experience that threatened to rob her of her courage. But at the end, it actually made her more brave. Here's what Jolene wrote to me. On February 17th, 2014, I was with my husband, 5-year-old daughter Claire, and 2 board members from my nonprofit, Awake and Alive. We were flying home from a 2-week adventure of exploring the country where Claire, the oldest of my 4 Ethiopian adopted children, were born. We were also spending time showing 2 board members around the academy that we had founded in one of the slum communities of Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. An hour into the red-eye flight, I had Claire settled in, and my husband had just dozed off to sleep when all of a sudden someone came over the speakers, filling the airplane with screaming and yelling in a different language. The plane quickly began to descend, and the oxygen masks deployed. Confused and terrified, I quickly put the oxygen mask on myself and then on my daughter. My husband reached for me across the aisle, and we held hands with our daughter, sitting in the middle of us for what we believed was our last moment in this life. The plane was dark, and people were screaming, but we just looked at each other as our daughter cried between us. There was nothing we could do but sit and wait. And wait is what we did, for 6 hours. The pilot of the plane began to walk around the cabin, which was our first clue that someone who was not supposed to be piloting the plane was. The man flying the plane told my fellow passengers and I over the speaker that we were not to try to come into the cockpit or oxygen would be turned off and everyone on the flight would die. So we sat eerily quiet. In those moments, I prayed that God would just put me out of my misery and terror, and that the plane would crash so violently that everyone, including my daughter, would die. It's hard to imagine such a thought now, but in those moments of terror, all I dared hope was that my daughter wouldn't have to see her mommy or daddy in the aftermath of a plane crash. Soon, the plane began to go down. It was descending, and I knew this was it. It was all about to be over. It was a night flight, and so no one could actually see the ground outside. Everyone braced themselves for impact, but then we heard tires hit the ground and realized the airplane had landed. We had landed in Geneva, Switzerland. The hijacker jumped out of the front window of the airplane shortly after it landed. He was caught and still sits in a jail in Geneva to this day. We stayed overnight in Switzerland, and in a state of shock, somehow we were able to get back on another plane to get home to our other children and family who were anxiously awaiting our return. Jolene later told me that after she got home, she had decided she would never, ever fly again, which painfully also meant she would never, ever go back to Ethiopia, a place that she feels like is her second home. She sunk into a state of depression, loneliness, and was full of anxiety. She told me that something changed in her heart and brain the night of the hijacking. Every waking moment, she was looking over her shoulder, convinced that someone or something was out to get her. And for a girl who before that lived freely with joy and trust, this was an entirely new way of living. Fear was consuming her and eating away at her joy. After months of living this way, Jolene realized this was a battle for her soul. The work she was doing in Ethiopia changes lives. The work she does as a Noonday ambassador changes lives, and fear was about to close the door on all of that. She decided she was not going to let that happen. 11 months after she was on a hijacked airplane, Jolene made the decision that she was going to fly again. She was going to go down to Austin, Texas for the Noonday Collection Shine Conference. And guess what? She did just that. She laughs when she tells me that she was medicated, of course, but come on, she did it. She's also now been to Ethiopia 5 times since being on that hijacked airplane, and 2 of those times she had done it flying the exact route the hijacked plane was supposed to be on. Tackling fear head on allowed her to adopt another child from Ethiopia, continue to lead teams bravely to Ethiopia to visit the academy, travel with Noonday Collection to Ecuador on an artisan trip, and boldly lead the 3rd top-selling team at Noonday. Tackling fear made her rise to do things she never thought possible. Seeing fear as a battle for her heart and soul has now made her a fighter. Jolene, thank you so much for sharing your story. Today, let's continue to hold hands with one another and simply go scared. That is when we will find ourselves on the other side of our fears and no longer be held captive from being afraid. Thanks so much for joining me on the Going Scared podcast today. If you like what you heard in this episode, be sure and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and leave a review so other people will join the conversation. If you'd like some behind the scenes looks at my life as a CEO, a mom, and a courage catalyzer, be sure to follow along on Facebook and on Instagram at Jessica Honegger, Honegger. Until next time, let's take each other by the hand and keep going scared.